welcome back to my channel. If you're new, then welcome. For today's video I'm going to be going through how I annotate my books when I read, some helpful tips and tricks that I think I've picked up along the way that I feel like I can impart some sort of wisdom on you guys if you're beginning to do this, or you know, if you're just not sure what you think about doing it and you're not sure whether to give it a go or not. So I've got a little list of like topics that I want to cover on my phone. If you're interested, then please do carry on watching. Maybe just get yourself a nice warm drink, like a cup of tea or something. Much more chilled out video. So basically there's a few topics that I want to cover. First things first, I'm going to talk about this in more detail towards the end of the video, but I've had two different ways of annotating. Just also to clarify before we get started, there is no right or wrong way. Like, there's no set in stone, concrete, this is the way to annotate your books. Like, it all varies and depends on the person as an individual and just what you want to do. Like, you do you, do you know what I mean? As long as you own the books and they're your property, go to town, do whatever you want to do. Like, it really doesn't matter, it's not that deep. But if you do want to try and take a little bit of care in it, or you want just some advice on how to get started with this, then yeah, I'm gonna give you some suggestions. So the first topic that I would like to cover is underlining, but just so you can get an idea of what I do. So I just underline specific bits that I think are important to the book and the story. So basically I'll underline facts, so like dates, people's names, places, like anything that I think is relevant to the story I typically will underline. But also if I find that there's like a chunk, so what I'll do is I'll read like the paragraph or something, or like as far as I think I need to first, and then if there's like more than one sentence and it's going to be like quite a few lines worth that I feel are crucial, then rather than underlining all that, I'll put little like almost like bracket things around the edge so that it sections it off, so that you know that whole bit is essentially underlined but it's not. So yeah, that's basically what I do with underlining. Like I say, you can do this any way that you want to. It's completely, you know, up for interpretation of your own style of how you want to do things, but that's typically what I tend to do. Next up is actually annotating itself, so writing the notes. Now, a lot of people tend to stick to the margins. I find that a bit difficult, so I try where possible, but I don't always. Like, if I've got space like at the bottom of the page or in between paragraphs, there's like a big enough gap, I still try and write quite small, but I do it in there as well. So basically with notes, again, it's up to each individual person how they choose to do this and go about it. But for me personally, I always do it with like initial thoughts. So I can literally reading it and then I'll have like the most random thought that I don't want to forget, but I want to develop it more and realise how I got there, or like write my thoughts and opinions and feelings on what I've just read. So I just write that down. So annotating can basically just be whatever you want it to be. I essentially just write my thoughts and feelings about certain things. Like, I won't write about everything, it's just if it sparks something in me that I want to write about, basically. So the next topic that I want to cover is highlighting and tabbing. So I think for this I'll also go through the two different styles that I've used. I like annotating my books because when I do, I feel like I can absorb the story better and I take it all in a lot more. How I'm currently annotating this one is I'm highlighting everything the same colour in orange, and I'm putting little yellow tabs on the side where I've highlighted, so that I know that that's a page where there's highlighted stuff and I can go back to it and find it straight away. Now the tab, I don't like them sticking out too far. I leave just a little bit of the edge of the tab hanging out. I tend to try and put it literally where I've highlighted, so that then I know I can just look at the tab and then look along and see oh, that's the highlighted portion, and try and like stagger them a little bit. With my current method, you'll notice the orange and yellow correlates to the book cover. So the book cover is orange and the spine is yellow, so hence I'm using an orange highlighter. I don't have orange post-it tabs, so I'm using yellow. So I'm trying to kind of now match them to the colour scheme of the book, but that's just my personal preference because I'm very particular, so that's a personal choice of mine. You don't have to do it like that, you can use any colour that you want. But yeah, that's how I'm currently doing it, which is my preferred method. What I used to do, you'll see that the tabs in this book come out a lot further and it's a lot more messy and there's so many of them. Rather than just doing it as simple as I'm doing it now, I used to have a system. I used 5 different colour post-its and highlighters. My pages were just always looking a little bit messy, like they would have different coloured highlighter sections like back to back, because I used to do it so that I had like, blue was like character traits and yellow was favourite quotes, pink was romance scenes, purple was like interesting words and phrases or things that I would look up, and then green would be like their environment or surroundings. So you can imagine that got a little bit confusing, especially when I was starting out, because I'd have to try and remember what each colour correlated to. It was just a bit of a nightmare and I didn't really like how it looked, and I used to keep the tabs stuck out way too far. So of the 2 ways that I've just described, I would highly recommend just having one highlighter, just highlighting your favourite bits with the highlighter, underlining important things. You can write what you like. That's my personal preference, but obviously you can do however you like, and loads of people do really enjoy doing it with the multiple different coloured versions. Just for me, I found it quite a bit much. Basically, that sort of leads me on to my tools and tips and tricks, because I buy these post-it note tabs. You get 5 different colours, so you get your blue, yellow, pink, purple and your green. Now the thing that I found was I needed to buy so many of these because you only get about 20 of each colour, and I would find I would be tabbing so much more pink and yellow than anything else. So I would get through the pink and yellow on one of these, start a new pack for pink and yellow, but still have to use the green and that on the original one. So yeah, I think using the same colour throughout is just, in my mind and opinion, so much cheaper and easier. And actually I was thinking, if you wanted to like DIY this and not spend so much money, you can obviously just use like a normal standard biro, whatever highlighter you have hanging around, but you could also just get a packet of regular post-it notes, chop the non-sticky part off, use the sticky part and cut it into little tab strips yourself, and then just position it. As long as it like doesn't overlap with the text, you might be able to get it so it's just about enough to make your own kind of sticky tabs, if you will. Because if you're doing it my new way, then you'd only need 1 colour anyway, and you get quite a lot of post-it notes on this. And then what you could always do with the bit that's not sticky that you cut off so it doesn't go to waste is my thoughts. And I had a thought and I was like, if you're just starting out with annotating and you're a bit scared to write in your book, you could always use the spare bit and just make notes as you go whilst reading like the double page, and then if you want to transfer them in afterwards, you'll know roughly what you're trying to say. Even if you just bullet pointed, like you could use that bit as like a scrap idea pad. But my tips and tricks for annotating, I personally at the moment, I'm using orange highlighter, like I said, yellow sticky tabs, and I'm using this, which is an erasable gel pen, which I didn't know that these existed until I was in my local bookshop the other day. What colour ink it is, so mine is turquoise. I've gone for turquoise not only because it's my birthstone and I was drawn to it, but also because I wanted something that would stand out enough and be bright enough but not too pale, that it wouldn't get mixed in with the pen, with the text. So it's got a really fine nib, it's 0.7 millimeters, so I can write really small with it, which is quite ideal. And you just have the rubber on the end. I would say just give it a few minutes to dry before you try and rub it out, otherwise you will probably damage your page. I was thinking in terms of people just starting out with annotating, my suggestions would be, obviously first time you can try with a pencil, go really lightly, and then if you make a mistake you can rub it out, and that can help you gain so much confidence. And then you can always go over it with pen afterwards if you wanted and get rid of the pencil, because the only problem with pencil is that it might smudge in the book a little bit over time. Also have like a little notepad or sticky note or something near you as you go to just write bullet points or thoughts on there, and then you can transfer those into the book at a later time if you want to. Definitely, if you think you want to give it a go, I highly recommend investing in just a simple erasable gel pen. But yeah, that is, I think, all my tips and tricks pretty much. Not very many, granted, and I'm definitely not the most experienced person for this, so you know, take what I say with a bit of a pinch of salt. That is basically it for this video. I really hope you enjoyed it and found it useful, especially if you are starting to annotate. If you do decide to start annotating after this video, then leave a comment down below letting me know which way you've chose, if it's my newer Daisy Jones version or the older Hating Game style. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up and remember to subscribe if you haven't already, and hopefully I will see you all in my next video.